There's no such thing as a perfect leader.
Of course not.
In these crazy times, are you learning anything about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot. And that's a great question. You know, when things are foobar, there's bad times, there's uncertain times, there are event driven problem times, and then there is just foobar, unique times. And that's where we're at right now. And, different people have a lot of different responsibilities when it all hits the fan.
Mhm.
And you're seeing those who put themselves first, those who, don't recognize the issues with their employees, those who don't realize that what's happening is bigger than them or their companies,
Mhm.
and those who really recognize that this is a unique set of circumstances and somebody's got to be out there trying to communicate with people and help. And that's where I've tried to fit.
When did you start to feel like resilience was really important?
Day one, I mean, my dad, my parents, I had a, middle class upbringing, but it wasn't like we had luxuries. And so my dad was always clear that if I wanted things, I was going to have to figure it out for myself.
Mm.
And that's the way I've always done it. I'm not big on using mentors or even being a mentor.
Mhm.
I'm big on telling people and telling myself, dig in and learn. I was the kid that would just go sit in the library and read everything to try to know as much as I could about a business topic.
Mm.
Or then when the internet came along, just, I always feel that if you're going to compete in business, if if it's important enough to you, you'll be the smartest person in the room, because learning is just a question of time. Are
Mm.
you willing to put in the time when when there's data, information, books, articles, whatever it may be, now podcasts and videos that are available to you to help you learn. If it's important enough to you and for your business and your success, you'll do it. And I've always had that perspective.
And is that important, not just for you, but for people that you work with, like a Luka Doncic or one of your entrepreneurs on Shark Tank? I mean, is this resilience and this continuous learning and trying to be the smartest person in the room, important across contexts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're a basketball player, what are you doing to be the best you absolutely can be? One of my favorite, I got two pet sayings that everybody around me gets sick of. The one thing in life you can control is your effort. And number two is how you do anything is how you do everything.
Hmm.
Those are things that echo in my head all the time. Okay, you've got time, you can control your effort here. What are you doing? What are you learning today? How are you going to get smarter today? And then the second part, how you do anything, it might be, okay, I just had cereal this morning and, did I clean up my set behind myself, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. We're working with my son in shooting, who's Jake. When you work on your jumper, you got to work on your jumper and pay attention and try to learn and get better with each and every shot. And that's analogous to the business world as well. Every shot you get a chance to learn from it and get a little better, record, take note of what you're doing and figure out how to do it. And that's also the opportunity if you have downtime during all this.
Hmm.
In every single business, you talk about being resilient. You go through your business on a day-to-day basis so swamped and so overwhelmed many times that you think, if only I had the time, I would redo this. If only I had the time, I would reevaluate that. Well, guess what? Chances are now's the time,
Hmm.
where you can redo all your content. You can redo your marketing. You can you can upgrade your website. You can spend time communicating with customers or prospects that you wish you had the time to talk to, because you know what? Those employees, prospects, customers, stakeholders, they're scared. They're potentially bored. They're looking for people to communicate, to make them have a sense of normalcy. And that is a unique opportunity we may never see again.
And not everyone, Steph Curry. How do you convince somebody to actually take the time and have the deliberate practice to take 1,000 jump shots every day to be that good? I mean, most people just won't really commit to doing that.
Either you want it or you don't,
Hmm.
because that's what separates the great ones from the ones that just go to work. Bobby Knight, again, another cliche for me. Bobby Knight said, everybody's got the will to win, but it's only those with the will to prepare that do win.
Love.
And there's nobody in business who's ever started a business, taken an executive role, who hasn't said, you know what, I'm going to be great at my job, or I think I'm really, really good. That's how I got here. But then you look to see what they do. Are they continuous learners? Do they communicate? Are they nice, right? Are they putting in the effort? Do they create more stress than they reduce, or do they reduce more stress than they create? And to me, that's important. You know,
So
are you reducing the stress of the people around you, particularly now? And if you have that skill, and some people create hurricanes and say, look, you need me because I'm the only one who can deal with the hurricane. And they won't admit they created the hurricane. And other people, they just make your life a lot easier. They're reducing your stress, and they don't say a word, but you know, if there's ever the consideration that they may leave, you freak out, right? And they're the people that you're thanking and being proactive and giving them raises to
mm,
without them asking. And so, you know, which type of person are you? And, you know, I try to find people who are self-aware enough and that they know. And look, if you just want to work 9 to 5, great. Just
mhm.
be honest about it, right? If you want to be great, then great, be honest about it, but you're going to have to put in the time.
So would you I'm just going to play devil's advocate. One last
Sure.
question, pass it over. Um, do you even look for that, you know, when you're recruiting a basketball player for the Mavericks, or are you just looking at talent? Because you can't teach height.
Well, no, you can't teach height, but they go hand in hand. Luka's a great talent, but he wants to be great. So after his first year where he won Rookie of the Year, you know, and I say this to all of our better players, what are you going to add over the summer? Because the improvements a player makes from his first to second year, second to third year, that's what indicates whether or not they have a chance to be a Hall of Famer, an All-Star, a rotation player, a backup player, or out of the league. You know, I was fortunate when I came in, I got to see Dirk Nowitzki for 21 years, and you just saw every single summer he worked on his game and added
All
to it.
21 years?
All 21 years. He might have been slower the last 5 of them, but he always
Just
worked on
harder.
his game because he knew those last few years he wasn't as agile and mobile as he was. So he had to do other things to compensate for them. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, I remember when I first bought the Mavs and I said to the whole team, you know, so what do you guys eat before a game? Snickers bars, chips, you know, and it went from that from Dirk as a 20-year-old to he won't touch sugar, won't eat anything fried or any alcohol during the season. Now we're trying to get Luka to go from, okay, eating the same junk food that you were used to eating when you were 16 years old to respecting your body more and recognizing that everything that you consume impacts your ability to play. And Luka is picking that up. That tells me, you know, when someone has the discipline to make adjustments like that, that they do want to be great. And it applies to business as well. You see it all the time with people you work with. Are they disciplined? You know, they don't have to be perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. But when they're self-aware enough to recognize what they're good at and what they're not good at, and to complement their skills with people that can do things that they can't do well, as opposed to just people who will try to make them look good.
And I'm just going to ask again, I think you answered it, but you consciously look for those kinds of qualities, you know, before you bring in a talent like that into any of your
Yeah,
organizations.
absolutely. Yeah.
Self-awareness,
Okay.
passion.
Yeah. So 2 different things. One, on players, yes, I get involved in scouting. I'm not the talent evaluator, but I'll work with all the different components we have. We have a psychologist that interviews our guys that, you know, I'll take all that. I'm the guy who kind of takes in all the data and helps with our general manager, Johnny Nelson, make the final decision on players. In terms of hiring, I'm horrible at hiring and interviewing.
Why? Why?
Because I sell myself on the person,
Mm.
right? I always see the good things in a person as opposed to, and sell myself on them as opposed to just laying back and letting them, you know, communicate
So
to me.
you're in sales mode. You got to come to the Mavs. It's the greatest place, rather than
Yeah,
really digging beneath the surface.
exactly right. And I learned that early on that I wasn't very good. And so it goes back to what I said about self-awareness. I know what I suck at, and I always try to hire and work with people who complement my skill sets.
And basically, that's advice that you would give all talents, regardless of how good you are at it, is to be self-aware and know what you potentially suck at and work at it.
Right. And look, it's not to say you can't get better at almost anything. You can, but you have to know where your frailties are, and you have to be able to set a course to get better. And then you have to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most people will talk about it, but then they won't do the work because it's hard. You know, if it was easy, everybody would be a superstar. My son Jake, who's right here, is 10, and yeah, here, come here, Jake. Say hi.
Get him on the. Hey, Jake.
What's up?
Look
He
at his
says hi. He
shirt.
says, hey, Jake. Say hi. Okay, back to schoolwork.
He's the handsome one.
Yeah, right. He got it from his mom.